On a chilly morning at the military camp, two figures who had been separated for a long time were unexpectedly reunited. Jungkook and Kim Taehyung, two members of BTS who are currently serving their mandatory military service, finally met again after a long time. This moment became one of the most emotional events for them, the soldiers who witnessed it, and BTS fans around the world. The reunion happened when the division where Jungkook was stationed, Division V, and the division where Taehyung was stationed, Division II, were ordered to join an official visit from high-ranking military officials. This merging was not a common occurrence, and only happened in certain situations that required coordination between units. No one expected that these two close friends would be reunited in such a way. When the Division II group arrived at the Division V headquarters, the atmosphere, which had been filled with formalities, suddenly changed. Among the rows of soldiers standing at attention, Jungkook and Taehyung's eyes met. For a moment, time seemed to stop. No words were spoken, only a meaningful gaze that conveyed 1,000 unspoken emotions. Jungkook, usually able to control his emotions well, appeared a bit different this time. There was a glimmer of emotion in his eyes. Taehyung, who was standing in the Division II soldier ranks, also seemed surprised. Both tried to remain in a standing position, but their expressions couldn't hide the longing that had been building up for so long. After the welcoming ceremony ended, the soldiers were given a break before starting the joint training session. This was the opportunity for Jungkook and Taehyung to finally talk after so long. They met in a quiet corner of the camp, away from the watchful eyes of their superiors. Hyung, Jungkook finally broke the silence. Taehyung nodded and smiled faintly. I didn't expect us to meet here. Jungkook looked at his friend with deep meaning. I thought we wouldn't meet again until the end of our military service. Taehyung chuckled softly, though his laugh carried an emotional undertone. I thought so too, but it seems like fate had other plans for us. They talked about many things: life in the military camp, the challenges they were facing, and of course, memories from before their enlistment. Taehyung shared how he often thought of moments when they were together as BTS, especially during rehearsals and performances on stage. Jungkook nodded, acknowledging that he felt the same way. However, there was something deeper than just this meeting. Jungkook suddenly took something from his uniform pocket, a small object he held tightly. Taehyung looked at him with curiosity. I want you to keep this, Jungkook said, handing the object to Taehyung. It will remind us of everything we've been through. Taehyung took the object and stared at it meaningfully. He didn't say anything for a while, just gazed at the object as if engraving it into his memory. Then, carefully, he placed it in his uniform pocket. I'll take care of it, Taehyung finally said. This moment witnessed the strength of their friendship. The soldiers who happened to see this interaction were also moved. They knew that the separation during military service was not easy, and seeing Jungkook and Taehyung reunited made them feel how deep the bond between these two friends truly was. But their time together was short-lived. The visit was only temporary, and soon the soldiers from Division II had to return to their headquarters. When the time for parting came, Jungkook and Taehyung could only gaze at each other with heavy hearts. Take care of yourself, Jungkook said softly. You too, Taehyung replied with a faint smile. As Taehyung turned and walked away, Jungkook remained standing in his place, watching his friend's figure until it disappeared into the distance. The other soldiers, witnessing this moment, could only remain silent. There were no words that could describe their feelings at that time. After this meeting, Jungkook and Taehyung returned to their respective military lives. But something was different this time. They no longer felt truly separated. There was a certainty in their hearts that, no matter how far apart they were, their friendship would always keep them connected. And in the midst of the hardships of military life, there was one thing that remained ingrained in their minds: the promise they made on the day of their farewell. A promise that only they knew, but strong enough to keep them going until the day they could meet again. Now, all armies around the world are waiting eagerly. When will Jungkook and Taehyung meet again? What promise did they make? And how will their military journey continue to unfold? One thing is certain: this is not the end of their story. This is just the beginning of a new chapter in the friendship they have built over the years. Since their unexpected meeting at the military camp, both Jungkook and Taehyung cannot shake the memory of that moment from their minds. There is a lingering feeling, like something unfinished, yet amidst their duties as soldiers, they must return to focus on their respective tasks and training. Despite returning to their tiring routines, the memory of their meeting gave them new energy. Jungkook, known for his hard work, became even more diligent in his physical training and military tactics. His fellow division members noticed that something had changed in him. After the meeting with Taehyung, he seemed more enthusiastic and full of energy. Meanwhile, Taehyung in Division 2 also felt the same. He often smiled to himself when recalling their conversation. His fellow division members began to grow curious and asked him, but Taehyung simply replied, "I met someone who means a lot to me." However, behind the happiness, there was a slight sadness in their hearts. That brief meeting only emphasized how much they missed each other and how much they missed life before military service, when they could laugh freely, joke around, and share the stage together. Since their meeting, communication between Jungkook and Taehyung became limited. Military regulations prohibited them from frequently contacting each other, except for official matters or special permission. But their friendship was too strong to be bound by such rules. Jungkook found a way to stay connected with Taehyung through a fellow soldier in Division 2. One of the soldiers assigned to Taehyung's division happened to have a friend in Jungkook's unit, and that's where the small messages began to be sent indirectly. "Hyung, stay healthy. Don't think too much. I'll be waiting for you after all this is over," Jungkook wrote in a small note handed to the connecting soldier. A few days later, he received a reply from Taehyung. "You too, Jungkookie. Don't get injured. I believe in you. We'll meet again." This simple message was enough to make them feel a little closer. Even though they couldn't speak directly or meet every day, they knew they were still supporting each other silently. Time passed quickly, and unexpectedly, the opportunity for them to meet again finally arrived. A joint training exercise between divisions was scheduled to take place at a large training field, and both Division 2 and Division 5 were included in the participants. When Jungkook heard the news, his heart raced. He asked his commander if he could know which units would be participating in the exercise, but no further information was provided. On the other hand, Taehyung also heard the same news. He hoped this exercise could be another opportunity for him to meet Jungkook, even if just for a moment. On the day of the training, hundreds of soldiers gathered in the vast field. They wore full uniforms with helmets and combat gear. Jungkook stood among his division members, his eyes constantly searching for a figure so familiar to him. Across the field, Taehyung was doing the same. However, due to the large crowd, it was hard for them to find each other. The training began with a series of combat simulations, where soldiers were grouped into different teams. Jungkook and Taehyung were in different teams, but an extraordinary coincidence happened. They finally met in the middle of the training grounds. Jungkook, who was running to secure a strategic position, suddenly saw someone in the distance. The figure walked with a firm stride, his expression focused on his task, but there was something in his movement that was so familiar to Jungkook. Taehyung also sensed something. He turned around, and at that moment, their eyes met. No words came from their mouths. There was only a meaningful look, as if they were silently saying, "We've met again." However, rules are still rules. They couldn't talk directly or run to each other. The training continued, and they had to remain professional in carrying out their duties. But for Jungkook and Taehyung, that brief moment was enough. It was a reminder that they were not truly alone in this place.